welcome everyone to our session today. I don't know about you, but I personally am a huge fan of OneNote. Having this application for me has been such a great way to get and stay organized. So the slide that I'm actually showing you on the screen is similar to what a lot of people's work areas can end up looking like. So we're going to kind of talk about how that all can be organized together into a OneNote notebook. So as we go through our topic today and talk about how this application works, I want you to be thinking about your current situation. Think about how it is that you're currently taking notes, how you're sharing information with other people based on notes. How do you do your brainstorming? How do you do managing of projects and having lots of different things that you need to keep track of? These tools that we have available here in Microsoft 365 can be a fantastic way to really understand and organize where everything is. So I remember when I used to have spiral notebooks. I used to have sticky notes. I would have scratch pieces of paper. And if your desk looks like that right now, you're definitely in the right class because we're going to be talking about how you can take that current situation that you're in and turn it into the manageable side. So back when, not too long ago, actually, well, probably about 15 or so years ago, I remember I would go to a meeting and I had a separate spiral notebook for regular meetings that I went to. I had department meetings and things like that. And I would grab that notebook on my way out to the meeting and I would do all my notes in there. Then I would come back to my desk and I would have to type everything into my computer. I would have sticky notes on my desk. I even had scratch pieces of paper that were actually taped to my monitor that I would have to flip back so I could see my monitor because I wanted to have those notes and I didn't want to lose them. Well, I remember losing sticky notes. I remember getting to a meeting and forgetting my notebook, forgetting, anything to really write on. I didn't have anything. And I decided there's got to be an easier way. And OneNote has been the answer for me. So what exactly is OneNote? Well, OneNote is an application that we can open directly through your Microsoft account. So right now I'm in my Microsoft account. I went to the left-hand side and I clicked Apps. From here, I could go and open up the app called OneNote. It is available online as a web app. It's available as a mobile app on your phone. It's available as a desktop app. I use it mainly as a desktop app. I don't usually use it online, but I do use it on my phone. As a matter of fact, I live and breathe in it on my phone. I use that quite often. I want to make sure that and just think about this. If you had something written down on a sticky note and you're not at your desk, how are you going to know what's on that sticky note? So things like that, if they're stored in OneNote, you're going to be able to have access to them. So the online version here, when I first opened up the app, is going to give you the ability to create a new notebook at the top. Then I can see a list of all of the notebooks that I have available. Now, I do have a lot of notebooks. Some of them I'm not actively using right at this moment, but some of them are just training purpose wise. But some of these are actually coming from, and you can kind of see this when you look at the name of it, you can see underneath it where it's actually stored. So this one says general. This one says site assets. This one is mine. So it tells you, that one's misspelled. This one is in the manager's channel. We can use OneNote notebooks online, desktop, mobile, and through Microsoft Teams. So we're going to see how that works for us today, because we also want to talk about who's going to have access to this notebook. Because have you ever, and when I think back on, I need to share something that I have on my notebook. I remember taking my notebook to the copy machine and making a photocopy of it. Then when we got cell phones that actually took pictures, I remember having a bag phone. That's how old I am. I remember also taking a picture and sending the picture to somebody of something that I had in my notebook. Those kind of things we don't have to do anymore. So think about your current situation and see these different features in OneNote. And if you haven't already transitioned over to OneNote, highly recommend you start today. Highly recommend. So I could start a blank notebook. I could open up an existing notebook. But this list of notebooks, as I was saying, they could be coming from someplace else. They could be my personal notebooks that I created by clicking blank notebook and getting started. I could have shared it with somebody else, but it could be just a notebook just for myself. Kind of depends. So I'll show you how you can share a notebook that you create. But a lot of times, if a notebook needs to be shared, think about who it needs to be shared with. Is there already a SharePoint site? Is there already a team that that notebook should reside in? So we'll talk about how that sharing can be used. But I want to open up a notebook just so you can see the difference too in between the online version and the desktop version, because the online version doesn't always give you everything that you can use in the app. Just like if I go to Excel online, I don't get all the same features that I would if I go to the desktop version of Excel. Same thing with OneNote. So let me open up one of my notebooks. I'll open up this one called Accounting Department Notes. That's actually coming from Microsoft Teams. Matthew, did somebody have a question?
Yeah, I thought I'd just ask you this question while you're still talking about the features of OneNote. Someone was wondering, they use Notepad. There's wondering, does OneNote have any specific advantages over Notepad?
Oh,
I believe they're referring
100%.
to, yeah.
Yeah, because if they're referring to Notepad that's a part of Windows, that's more of a mini word processing program. And once you
Mhm.
see the different tools we can use in OneNote, you won't go back to Notepad. This is definitely where you want to be,
Okay.
because when I come in to this notebook, which, like I said, I'm using the online version right now. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a list of sections. So if you go to the store, which right now, of course, back to school stuff is coming out, you go to the store and you buy a 3-section or a 5-section notebook. That's one way to kind of organize those notes, but it's not electronic. Here we have sections, and you can have as many sections as you need to organize your information. So you're going to have the name of the notebook, you're going to have the sections, and each section is going to contain pages. And you can have as many pages as you need to organize your information. So once I start inserting things into these pages, we can't do that kind of thing in a notepad, in that app called Notepad. So we'll get to those here in just a second. But when you come into the online version, you'll notice at the top there is a ribbon. The ribbon can either be simplified or it can be classic. Right now you're seeing classic. If I go to the right-hand side of the ribbon and click the down arrow, I can choose simplified. So I can have just icons going across and I don't see all the bells and whistles. But here in the online version, I'm not seeing as many tabs and as many features as I get in the desktop version. So what if I opened this and I decided I wanted to use this in the desktop version? I really can go to the top right, click editing, and say open in desktop. It will open it in the desktop app, and it's going to look a little bit different on the way that it's organizing the sections and the pages, and I have more tabs on the ribbon at the top. So right away, I'm going to have more features available. So what I did right now was I added this accounting department notes to the left-hand side. So that's the name of the notebook. Did you guys ever do that? You know how you have your spiral notebooks? I remember being in school and we always wrote the subject or whatever on the cover page of the notebook. And that to me, like I had, um, it was called IT department notebook is basically what I wrote on the cover of mine. So I knew that when I went to that meeting, that's the notebook I would grab. And I had like 7 different spiral notebooks. You know what? I don't even know if I have a notebook in my office anymore. I really don't. I don't have sticky pads. I used to have all these, little notebooks and big notebooks and all of that. I don't even have any of that anymore. So when I come into this desktop app, not only do I have more tabs on the ribbon, but I do get the full ribbon by default. The list of my currently open notebooks appears on the left-hand side. So by the way, my notebooks by default, if I create them, they go to OneDrive into a folder called OneNote Notebooks. So just so you know, that's where they go by default, unless it is created in Teams or SharePoint. Then, of course, it's a part of the SharePoint site, etc. But anyway, either way, mine are cloud-based. And that's kind of the key because I want to be able to use these also on my mobile device. So if I download the OneNote app on my phone, I log in with my Microsoft account. So I'm going to have access to all of my notebooks, whether they're stored in SharePoint, they're stored in Teams, or they're in my OneDrive. I have access to all of those. Now, on the left-hand side, I don't have every notebook open. These are the ones I'm actively using right now, so they're available on the left. If I wanted to open another notebook here in the desktop version, I can go to the File menu, just like you would open up any file. You would then navigate to where it is and open it, and then it would appear here in this list. But the list has collapse and expand options. So right now I'm expanded on the notebook called Accounting Department Notes, where you can see the names of my sections going down. So I have accounts receivable, expenses, etc. These are all my little sections that I have to help organize the information. In the middle, you will see add page, and then whichever section you're clicked on, you're going to see a list of the names of the pages. The pages is where we put our objects. We place our objects in the pages. Like right now, I'm on a page that is called Workflow for Invoicing. Now, how do we add a section? How do we add a page? And then what are we going to put in these pages? Well, I want you to think about what's the purpose of this notebook? Is it to store information related to a project you're working on? Are you doing brainstorming with a group of people and you want a central location to have access to everything? Think of the objective behind it. That's going to end up being the name of the notebook. Then think about how you want to organize things. Everything that's directly related to, for me, in this one, accounts payable goes in that section. Everything related to expenses is going to go in that section, etc. But then you have this subcategories of pages where everything's going to go. If you want to add a new section, you're going to go to the notebook at the bottom of the sections that are expanded out, click New Section. You'll get a new section with a generic name called New Section 1. Right-click on the name. From the pop-up menu, you can rename it by clicking Rename, type in the name, and press Enter. So let's say that I need a new section that's going to be organizing a project. So I'm just going to call it Project and press Enter. So now I have this new section that has no pages yet. In the middle of the window, I can see where it says Add Page, Untitled Page. The title of the page is going to come from the page itself, which is on the right-hand side of the screen where my cursor is blinking in the title box, where it gives you the date and time stamp. Isn't it crazy that it's July 31st already? We were talking about that before we started. It's like, what happened to the 1st of July? But anyway, let's say that I want to put in my scope information. So scope of the project. I'm going to put that as my title and it automatically names it in the middle part of the window. If I want to add another page, all I do is click Add Page. It gives me the untitled page and I just type in the name of this one. So maybe this is going to be our WBS items that we're going to track. So just so you could see, you just give it a name to uniquely identify what's going to be in it. It's kind of like putting together a team in Teams where you have the channels and you have the apps. It also reminds me of Excel worksheets. You have a workbook, you give it a name, and then you have the different sheets to keep track of different information on each sheet. So they kind of work that same way. Now, what are we going to put on these sheets? That's the key. That's where this OneNote notebook is so much better than trying to do anything on paper or using some of those other apps. Let's take a look at the ribbon. First, let's say that I want to add in some text. I've got this WBS page that I'm on and I want to add text. You can click your mouse anywhere on the page and just start typing. So WBS description, and then a WBS will be our list of topics / tasks we need to complete. And as I'm actually typing this, notice it's in a box. It's actually called a container. Everything that we insert into the page is in a container. The container grows as you type. So it will get wider and longer as you add information in the container. But I'm going to press enter to move down. If I kept typing, it would get wider and wider as I keep going. But I'm going to add in a couple of things. And I'm going to say that we want to have topic 1, we want to have topic 2, etc. And I could make this list. Well, what if I don't want this text where it is on this piece of paper? I can move it anywhere I want. By putting my mouse at the top of the container, I will get a move handle. I can then click and drag it wherever I want it to go. Can't do that on paper. I've tried. I've tried erasing. I used to use whiteout, those kind of things. I remember taking, I had this piece of this paper that had information that was supposed to go on another page because I had ran out of room. So I tore it out or cut it out and then taped it on this other page. Wow. Those days are so gone for me. I like this much better. So anyway, the page doesn't really have too much of a limit. We can go wider on our page, we can go longer on our page and add as much information as you need, but think about, is it all related to each other? If it's not, maybe it needs to go in a new page. So you got to think of how you want it to be organized and how you're going to be able to read it and those kind of things. Well, when you were doing text, what if you wanted to format that text? I'm going to select WBS description, and I get a little mini toolbar that pops up with the most common formatting. But I can also go to my home tab of the ribbon, and I have my typical font information. I even have styles I can use, just like the styles we have in Word and Excel and PowerPoint. I'm going to click on heading 1. So it automatically formats that text with that style called heading 1. But there's something that's very unique when it comes to using a OneNote notebook, and this is one of my favorite things. Any object that we add to our pages can have what are called tags. What exactly is a tag? Well, what if these topics were a to-do list? I could select these 2 topics. On the home tab of the ribbon, we have this tags group, and I can click to do tag. It marks these 2 lines, these 2 paragraphs, as being something I need to do. But what if topic 1 is critical? I could tag it as being critical. By going to my tags, I can click on this drop-down arrow, and it shows me this list of all the tags that are built in to OneNote. I'm going to click critical. And what if topic 2 is an idea? Because maybe we're doing some brainstorming. I could tag it as being an idea. Now, these tags can be used for whatever it is you want to use them for. But the thing that I love about not just being able to tag these is we can actually go back and find them. Based on the notebook you are in, based on all of your different sections, based on all these different sections that you have, all these different pages that you have, if you have things that are tagged, no matter what it is, we'll be able to find those tags, to find things that were all ideas. I want to be able to find everything that was a to-do. I want to be able to find everything that was critical. By going to the Home tab of the ribbon, in the Tags group, click Find Tags. It's going to open up a pane on the right-hand side, organizing things into the tag sections. So attendance, critical, to-do. I can choose for it to, and by the way, I did a refresh results down at the bottom because it wasn't seeing a couple of things. It's not seeing my idea. When I tag that idea, I don't know why it's not doing that. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right at this second. Because what I use this for is I need to know everything in this notebook that was marked as critical because of the fact that I need to take care of all those critical things. Or what was everything that we had tagged as an idea? Everything that we tagged as important? Everything that we tagged as a to-do item? What I can do from this list that it gives me the results of is they are all hyperlinks. So if I want to navigate back to any of these results, I just click on it because when I hesitate, you can see it's a hand. I click on it and it will navigate me to the section, to this, and it's selecting the text way down here. It's selecting the text of where that item was tagged with whatever it was. Critical, ideas, important, meeting, whatever. It tagged it and I can link to it. So I love this. This is something that I use in every single notebook. It, to me, is unbelievable how I don't even know who thought of that at Microsoft, but I want to thank them because this has saved me so much time of trying to find things in my sections and my pages. And I could even search within all of my open notebooks at one time if we needed to. Matthew, did somebody have a question?
Yes, yes, someone was wondering, is it safe to keep information of clients or private information in OneNote?
Well, who are you sharing the notebook with? Should they have access to that information? If it's a notebook all for yourself, you're the only person that has access to it. Nobody else can get to it, so you're just fine. So let's say that I have this notebook and it's called Accounting Department Notes. And it's actually coming from Microsoft Teams. And I have a lot of people that are a part of that team. So it's shared with like 10 different people. What if I have some information that I don't want all 10 people to see? You know what's really great in here? We can password protect a section. And everything in that section is only available if they know the password to get in. If you go to the sections on the left-hand side, right-click the name of the section. So I'm going to this one called Project. I can then do Password Protect the section. Put in what you want for the password. So on the right-hand side, I would say Set Password. You would give it a password it has. You repeat it to make sure that you remember what it was. You typed it in the same way twice. And that section is not available to everybody. They would have to have the password to open it. So that's what you could do with confidential information if you don't want everybody that's a part of it to have access to it. But otherwise, you have Microsoft security behind the scenes. It can never get leaked outside of your organization. It's based on who has rights to the physical object, the object meaning the notebook. Okay? Now, we'll get into a little bit on that sharing here shortly. But I'm going to go back to this project, and I'm going to this project section, and I'm on that WBS page. I'm going to close the tag summary on the right-hand side because I want to talk about some more things that you can add to the pages, because that's what this is all about. So if you think about the things that you need to organize, you need to have access to when it's related to doing brainstorming or working on a project, etc. What do you need? Well, text is easy. And by the way, you can copy and paste text. So if somebody sent you an email with something, you could always copy and paste it in. A lot of different ways to kind of get things in here, but let's go to the Insert tab of the ribbon. On the Insert tab, you will see a list of all these different things that you can bring into your notebook. So starting on the left-hand side, we could do a table. So if you want to have a table to have columns and rows of information, select how many columns and how many rows you want to start with. It will insert that table wherever your active cursor was. So I happen to still be in this component that I was doing my WBS description. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. What if I'm clicked over here and I go to Insert Table and I start my table from there? It's going to go there in its own container. Otherwise, if you put it inside an existing container, when you move that container, it moves everything in it. Just so you know, sometimes that's a good idea. But it is a container on its own, so I can click and drag and move it wherever I want it to go. So if I click inside the table, just like other tables in different applications, you can type your information in. So maybe I need their name and I need their department and I need their cell, whatever information it is that you need, you can just keep adding it in. The table will grow as you type. So if I say cell phone number, as I'm doing that, it's making the width of the column wider. It doesn't wrap it down automatically. And notice I have a tab on the ribbon called Table. So it's going to give you the tools related to working inside the table. Inserting more rows, columns, deleting, whatever it is you need to do, you can go there. Now, it's not giving you all the bells and whistles that you would get if you're in a table in Microsoft Word, but it gives you everything that you really need. So anyway, just so you can see, you can organize things in a table. Now, I'm just going to click on a different spot and go back to the Insert tab again because there's so many things you can insert. This next group is Files. Notice it has File Printout, File Attachment, Spreadsheets, Visio Diagrams. I use Visio Diagrams all the time in OneNote because I want to create a flow chart and things like that. Boy, I'm so happy to have that right here. But let me start with File Printout. What this is actually going to allow you to do is to go to your computer, find a file, whether it's in your OneDrive, your SharePoint, Teams, wherever, locate the file. Let me actually go to, I don't want anything too big. I'm going to go to this computer shortcuts, and I'm going to choose this Word document, or I could do this one. Let me do this Word document. And I'm going to click Insert so you can see exactly what it's going to do. It's going to give you an attachment of the file, but it's called File Printout. It's going to insert the entire document. Now imagine if you're doing that with Excel. If you had 5 sheets, it's going to insert all 5 sheets, just like it would look if you had printed it. Just like it would look if you had printed it. So sometimes that's probably not what you want, but this is how it's going to come out. This is that Word document. Let me give you another option that might be a little bit better, an easier option, depending on what it is you're going to do with that data. Sorry, I clicked off there. Depending on what you're going to do with that information. So one of the things that you have the ability to do is you can go back to Files and just do it as a file attachment. So if you just want to attach a file like it did here, you could do that. But remember, a file is only as good as it was when it was attached. Instead, what if you want a link to it? It's a file that everybody's going to be using. We could have a link to it instead. By going to the Insert tab, click Link. You can then navigate to the physical location of where the file is stored at on your computer, and you can have a physical link to it. Now, the people that are going to be using this notebook, they have to have rights to that physical location to be able to click on that link, just so you're aware. But I'm going to do a link to that same exact file just to show you. It might be easier to do it as a link than it is to have the whole printout of that file instead. So I'm going to click OK, and here's that link. And a lot of times I have a container, and a lot of times I have it at the top right up here. And this will be a link, and I could keep adding other links to other files that may be related to the information on this page. So you can add multiples. I use that all the time. But what else can we insert? I'm going to actually delete this component just because it takes up so much space here. I'm going to select this word shortcuts here. I'm just going to delete that. I pressed my delete key when I selected it. I still have the shortcut here to the double click and open up the attachment. But I'm going to come over here to the left, and I'm going to go to Files again and do Spreadsheet. And I'm going to say Existing Excel Spreadsheet. So what I want to do is navigate to my computer to a file, and I'm going to go to this. Let me grab, oops. I don't want the file to be too big, so I'm going to go into this folder. And this is actually coming from my OneNote notebook, but this is going to be a live file. It is a file that anyone that has access to this, they have to have rights to the physical location of where this was. I'm going to insert spreadsheet. It's going to insert all sheets, and it will give us an edit button where we're going to be able to click edit to be able to modify that file right from here. We'll see the information in it like the file printout, but it's live, it's editable. It's not just a PDF look of it. So here's the file that I had. If I click edit, it's going to open it in Excel, and I'll be able to make changes, and then the changes will be updated here as well. Sorry, it's opening it on my other screen, it looks like. But anyway, just so you know, if you make changes to it, then they will be updated here. So this is another option if you want people to be able to actually see everything. This would be an option. So I'm going to make a change to it. It's going to automatically save it because, of course, it's cloud-based. In a moment, it will refresh that. Okay, but they have to have rights to that location for them to be able to update this. So they do, make sure that it's in a cloud, someplace that they have rights to. But I like having this. This is a great feature. That way we can have it right there. Everybody's seeing it all at the same time. But what else can we insert? Because we're going to run out of time before too long here. Back on the Insert tab, you can also do a Visio diagram the same way we did Excel and have that be live updated as well. We can insert pictures, whether they're coming from your camera, a file, etc., online. So if you want to gather together, we're going to be we want to order some new products. We have new copiers that we're looking at. Here's a picture of them. Here's some information about them. Here's a picture that we can actually see what they're going to look like. So you can navigate wherever your pictures are stored at or get them off the internet, copy and paste them, and you can bring an image in as well. So lots of cool things can be added to our pages within our notebooks. So just so you could see how the picture part would work, I'll just go to pictures. I'll just grab any picture. Hopefully there's nothing, sorry. Hopefully there's not any weird pictures going on here. I'll just add one of these just so you could see that you could do that. Okay. And by the way, it comes in a container. The container can be moved. The picture can be resized. So whatever it is you want to do with it, you can have a bunch of pictures as you're brainstorming ideas and things like that. But back to the Insert tab, I'm going to click on a free spot again on the page. We also could do an online video. We could, as I already talked about the link, we could also do a loop component. So loop components, of course, are covered in another session, but you could add a loop component here to a page, and it can be a live component that people are going to update. We can record a video. So if I have a video message that I want people, when they come into this page, they can listen to it. Hey, by the way, next week, blah, 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 I want to give them this information. I could record a video and have it be available on this page for everybody to listen to. Date and time, those kind of things. But we also have this feature here called page templates. If I click page templates, let's say that we're going to be doing, this is a project. And by the way, I'm going to go to scope of project. And on the right-hand side in these templates, I want to have, let's go to the category. So there's different categories on the right. I'm going to go to the business category. There is a template of a page that we can add called Project Overview. I'm going to click Project Overview. It adds it as a new page, and I want that to be under Scope of Project. I'm going to click and drag to rearrange the order of my pages, which we can do the same with our sections. We can move them up and down within the list. But it automatically gives you a container with project name, company name. Maybe I want this to be project manager name. You can modify or add to it whatever it is that you need, but you're not starting from blank. So keep in mind, every time you use a template, by clicking on the name of it, it adds a new page. Notice on the left-hand side or right-hand side, in this business section, there's also meeting notes. So we can have simple meeting notes, informal, personal, detailed. What if I want simple? I click on that, and this is what I'm going to get. It's got a graphic in the background. It's got a couple of placeholders for some things. It automatically added a new page. I'm going to go back to the right-hand side again. I'm going to click formal meeting notes. I like this one better than the other one. I'm going to delete the other one. You can delete a page or delete a section by right-clicking the name of it. Right-click on the name, left-click on delete, and that will be deleted. So to see the sections, you have to add them, but you can always delete them if you don't want them. But I really like these, and I do use them on a very regular basis, because what if we're going to be doing these different meetings related to this project and we want to keep track of everything? What I typically do is, for the title, I will give it the name of the meeting, and I usually put in the date of when we had the meeting, so that when I'm seeing the name of it, I have that listed. But I want this and project overview to be indented under scope of project. We can create what are called subpages. I'm going to I'll do it two different ways. One is I'm going to right-click project overview. I'm going to left-click on make subpage. It indents it underneath scope of project. So it can be related to scope of project. I want to have all these pages, and I can shrink and collapse the scope of page or scope of project to hide those pages if I don't want to see them all the time. I want name of meeting to also be a subpage. I'm going to drag it up there, and I indented it by just moving it to the right when I drug it up there. Now I have that as a subpage as well. So easy options to use depending on what exactly it is that you need. I love these page templates, but there's more that I want to cover. So let me go back to WBS. And let's say that on this WBS, I want the page to be a different color. You know how you can buy notebooks and scratch pieces of paper, whatever, your little notebooks and stuff, and have different colored pages? We could do that same thing here. So one way to make some changes is to go to the View tab, go to Page Color, click the color that you want to apply, and that page will become that color. But what you also have, which is, I think, pretty cool, is we have the ability to add lines. So if you like the ability of being able to have lines on your piece of paper, you can. I'm going to create a new page for this, and I'm going to be on the View tab of the ribbon. I'm going to click the drop-down arrow for Rule Lines. You could see you can have narrow, you can have wide, you can have grid lines, all depending on what you're going to do. I'm going to do wide. Now my page is just like a piece of paper. I like it. But what are you going to do on there? Well, if I'm using my phone has a built-in stylus. So I could actually use my stylus and just write in those lines. Or I have a touchscreen laptop. I could use my finger to write on it. Or we have a draw tab on the ribbon. If you go to the draw tab, you could choose your drawing tool, like this pencil, pen, whatever it is. I could click on the drop down arrow and change colors and all these other tools, thicknesses, etc., just so you could see. But then you come over to your page and then you can start writing. I'm not good at this, but just so you could see, I can do my name. I made it a little thick, but just so you could see, you could do that. So if you like to write, go for it. You certainly can, and you can convert it to text. But the key to this is if you're drawing, which I could come in and I could be, giving them example. Here's what the house is going to look like. We're going to have a door over here. We're going to have some windows. I'm using my mouse. I'm not very good at this at all. Oh, converted it to a square for me. So that's a funny looking house. But anyway, just so you could see, you could do that. What if you want your mouse back to normal again? You need to remember to go back to the draw tab of the ribbon. On the left-hand side, you need to click select. Then your mouse is going to be back to normal. I could go and select these objects that I was writing. I could move them. I could rotate them, whatever it is that you need, just so you get an idea that they're an object, because everything that goes on your page is in a container and it can be moved. There's different things we can do with them. But because these were drawing options, these can be rotated. We can't rotate a container that we put in, but these could. Pretty cool that we have this. I like it. It's even got a ruler and stuff. You can insert shapes. So lots of things can be inserted that we really don't get to do in other applications. Now, just for a moment here, I want to jump back to insert one more time. There were a few other things like symbols and stickers. In the online version, you can do emojis and stuff like that. I honestly don't use those in my notebooks, but just so you know, you could. And then back to the ribbon, I'm going to go to the Review tab. The Review tab has spell check. It has thesaurus. So if you misspell something as you're typing, it does have built-in spell check. You also can translate, and you could apply a password from here as well. Now, on the View tab, I only mentioned the page color and the ruler lines that we can also be adding in. You could change your paper size and use some of these other features as well. The one thing that I do like is tab layout. Right now, the sections are on the left-hand side. If I go to this drop-down, instead of vertical tabs, we can have horizontal tabs. So if I would prefer to have my sections at the top, my pages at the left-hand side, and access to my open notebooks by going to the top left, it says Accounting Department Notes. I can click on that drop down and navigate to a different notebook. Just so you could see, you could do that. Now this is actually a live notebook that I use, so you can kind of see how it's organized here. I use a lot of notebooks, seriously. I think they're awesome. But this is the desktop one. How do I use this if I'm in Microsoft Teams? Let me show you how that would work for you. If you come into Microsoft Teams, you go to your Teams on the left. You have your list of teams. Here's my accounting department, where I have access to that accounting department notebook from. But if I go to any of these, like even if I go to invoicing, this channel called invoicing, by default, when a channel is created in Teams, it gives notes as a tab. If I click notes on this invoicing, if it's the first time you're using it, it's going to take a second and build it. But it doesn't really give you anything to get started. You have to create your own things to put in it. But it's automatically shared with the people that are a part of that team. So how do they get here? Well, create a new section, you'll have a tab for notes. But what if you wanted to create another one? You could go to the plus sign at the top of your tabs and you could add in another notebook. Just click OneNote, create a new notebook, give it a name. So just so you know, you could always have more than one notebook. But this is the online version of OneNote. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to see these are all my pages. If I want to click this icon, you can expand and collapse. So just so you're seeing a little bit on how that works. I don't have much in here. I'm not going to stay in here, but you could use it this way. But I could still go to the online version, and here from the online version, I could be creating new notebooks. I could be opening up any of my existing notebooks. So let me just back up here for a second, back to the actual OneDrive app. Come on, sorry. Just so you could see how this all works from here. Come on. I should have stayed logged in on a different tab, but that's okay. I'll just get this back open again here real quick. I'm going to go to my apps on the left. I'm going to open up my OneNote because I can open up any notebook that I have rights to. Whether it's coming from Teams, it's coming from SharePoint sites, or it's coming from the ones I've created, I can access them from here. So just so you could see, I have this one here that is called Jolene's Notes and Recipes, and I can see that it's part of Jolene's files. It's actually in my OneDrive, in my notebooks folder. But if I click on that to open it, it's going to open it here, like I showed you earlier that we can open up a notebook this way. So you can see all this different information can be accessed from anywhere. I can go to any of my sections, any of my notebooks, and I can be using that information from all over the place. I can open things on my phone, whatever it is that you need, you will have access to all of that. I can switch to a different notebook at the top left. If I want to go back to accounting department notes, I can go back to that notebook and it will automatically open that notebook. So we can do things from multiple places. But the great part is from that app, you're going to see every notebook that you're a part of. But I got to tell you that I was in that desktop version. So here's the desktop version of OneNote. And I was in this notebook called Athon Projects. Nobody else has access to this. I could share it if I wanted to. So if I create a new notebook that is in my OneDrive, if I want other people to have access to this, which is one of my favorite features about using OneNote because they can be shared, is I can go to the top right. When you click share, you can say share entire notebook. You're going to get your share window. Show you it when it opens here. You could choose who do you want to share this with. So what it's going to do by default is give them editing capabilities. But do you want them just to be able to view it? This is the same share that you get if you're sharing a file from OneDrive, a file from Teams, etc. Go to the top right. Can edit is the default, but if you want them just to be able to view the notebook, you could do that as well. You could copy a link and put the link in an existing email. You know, you're replying to somebody, you want to put it there. You could do that. Or you could send it to them via email. Put in who you're going to share it with, put in their email address. Type in your message. Here is the notebook, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is that you need, type it in, then click send, and they will have a link to be able to get into it. But back to that confidentiality, they're going to have access to everything in here and be able to make changes to it if we allow that. So keep that in mind. You might want to have some passwords on sections that you may not want everybody that you share this with to have access. But if I have a notebook in Teams or SharePoint, whichever team I'm in, whoever has rights to that team has rights to that channel, because it could be a public or a private channel. We could make sure that it's being shared with that group of people by having it be available in that team. So we don't have to go out and share it with all these individual people. If it's related to the name of the team, related to the name of the channel, that notebook should be here. And you can add existing notebooks. It doesn't always have to be a brand new one that you're creating. But I did want to show you here in Teams, like I'm going to go to this training team and I want to add a new channel. I'm going to right click on a team. I'm going to left click on add channel, just so you could see, and I'll just name it SharePoint. I'm going to say that it's going to be a standard channel. Everybody that's a part of this team has access to it. I want you to see what happens when you create a new channel. Microsoft is actually making some updates to this as well. Just so you know, you're going to see that update. So this is the update that I got just a couple of days ago. The channel owner sets the channel thread layout. I'm going to close that window at the top, but it's not called post anymore. It's called conversation. So just so you know, that's changing. When you create a new one, it's now going to be called conversation, which makes more sense than post because we're having a conversation with those people. But notice that I got notes. By default, these are the tabs you're going to get. If I click notes, this is going to be shared with everybody that's a part of this team. So have it be related to the name of the channel, name of the team. It's getting it ready. Then we can add our sections, add in our pages, and we have this wonderful place to share our information.